Hey writers, has someone ever asked you where you get your story ideas from, or where maybe they could find theirs? Or maybe you've asked these questions yourself. Well, stick around because in this video I'm going to share 5 ways that you can find ideas for your next story. If you're new here, my name is Mary. I'm a writer, bookworm, and crafty girl. Now, not too long ago, I was discussing my writing with my personal trainer at the gym, and he asked that inevitable question, where do you get your story ideas from? Now, the short answer is everywhere, but that doesn't really help, does it? So here are 5 ways that I found story ideas, along with some examples of the stories that came from them. Number 1, free writing. Free writing is a technique that has been around for several decades, designed to help increase the flow of writing, to help you ignore that internal censor, to just get the words out on paper. Now, this might sound actually a lot like brainstorming, and they do have a lot of similarities, but the biggest difference is that in free writing, you don't stop writing. Keep that pen going across the page or your fingers on the keyboard, wherever you're writing on, and don't stop. Write down anything and everything that you can think of for whatever you might be working on. Don't worry about spelling or punctuation. Nobody else is going to see this. You can free write to a certain amount of time or even a certain number of pages. Julia Cameron shared her own version of free writing when she introduced the concept of morning pages to the world in her book, The Artist's Way. The idea of morning pages is to fill 3 sheets of paper first thing in the morning, and that is 3 handwritten sheets, not typed. Now, I love writing by hand, so that's actually not a problem for me. In fact, my thoughts seem to come so much clearer when I'm writing by hand than when I'm on my laptop. And the time it takes to fill those sheets may vary from day to day, but just get the words out on paper. But what if I don't know what to write, you might be asking yourself? Well, write that down. What if I start thinking about a new topic while I'm still in the middle of writing a sentence? Well, you could either finish the sentence that you're on and move on to the topic, or you could end the current sentence and start the new sentence of what you're thinking on. That's totally up to you. That's also the beauty of free writing, is you can handle it however you want. What if I suddenly lose my train of thought while I'm in the middle of writing and I can't remember what I was writing about? Well, that actually happened to me a couple of years ago. I was in the middle of the first sheet of morning pages when I suddenly lost my train of thought. My mind just went blank. I don't know why or how it happened. And when I tried to get back on track, even just by going back and reading the sentence that I had just written, the half-finished sentence that I had just written, it didn't help. I had no idea. I couldn't remember what I was just thinking about. Well, that started me thinking, what if? What if there was a race of invisible creatures that stole thoughts right out of your heads as you were thinking them? I mean, that would be the perfect explanation of why you suddenly forget what you were going to say, or why you came into this room for a certain reason. So I started thinking of what else could happen. You know, maybe these thought thieves, as I began to call them, started doing this out of mischief because it's funny to them. But what if they started taking more important thoughts? What if they started taking thoughts from an important person in town, or at least someone who was important to my main character? And this person forgets some essential thing that kicks off the realization that something is wrong in the town. So that was the inspiration behind what is now Project Thought Thieves, a lost thought while free writing, unable to find it again. So I want to encourage you to try this idea out for yourself. Get some paper and a pen and start writing. And yes, I do insist on pen if you're going to be writing by hand, because if you use pencil, it can fade over time and you won't be able to read what you've written. But just get your thoughts all out on paper. That may even be what you need to do just to clear your head before you can start the rest of your writing day. If you're not sure where to start, or the idea seems a little bit overwhelming, start small. Start with 1 page, set a timer, say 10 minutes, and don't stop writing. Remember, it is perfectly acceptable to write, "I don't know what to write," on that page. Even that simple act can help get your brain going. Tip number 2, music. Whether instrumental or with lyrics, music has been a powerful influence on people for countless ages. Certain music helps me focus on my tasks. When I was in elementary school, around 4th or 5th grade, I had to listen to an album with a blend of jazz music and whale song whenever I took a test, because I would just freeze without it. I would stress, I would struggle with questions. But that album helped me to relax and to focus. I also love Christmas music and start listening to it in the late summer. I love guitar music. I love piano music. Well, one day last summer, I believe it was, I was listening to Anywhere for You by my favorite group, the Backstreet Boys. Now that song came out in 1996 and I listened to it all the time. But it wasn't until last summer that the very first line of that song triggered a question. I'd walk halfway around the world for just one kiss from you. Why go halfway around the world? What caused the travel? Was it for business, for illness, for a vacation? I eventually came up with 2 main characters who meet at a wedding. One is the brother of the bride, one is the maid of honor. And they need some situation that consistently has them running into each other throughout the course of the story, and of course falling in love. I knew that both of them had jobs that required travel. I knew that there was some emergency at the beginning of the story that first gets them interacting with each other to kind of kick all this off. I still have plenty of questions to answer, including that halfway around the world for a kiss question. But for now, that story's on the back burner while I work on 1 or 2 others. Have you ever been inspired by music? Please comment down below and let me know what was the song that inspired you and what story came from it. And if you haven't done this, give it a try. Turn on your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Amazon Music, a CD, a record, YouTube Music, wherever you get your music from. Listen to a song or 2, maybe even a whole album, and start making some notes. What will that inspire you to write? Number 3, writing prompts. These are everywhere. Literally. There are books dedicated to writing prompts. There are websites. There are podcasts. The Writing Excuses podcast shares a writing prompt or some kind of writing activity at the end of every episode. And these writing prompts can vary from building a character, to writing a specific scene, to practice description or world building, to a specific story idea or a story opening. You're going to find a ton of writing prompts on Pinterest, both words and images and even, video clips. Now the story idea that I came up with for this particular way is the same as for the next one, so I'm going to share it there. And in the meantime, go take a look at Pinterest or Google for some writing prompts or images and see what inspires you. Number 4, retellings. Seriously, some of the most popular books in recent years have been retellings. Fairy tale retellings especially. We got the Lunar Chronicles, the Stolen Kingdom series, the Twisted Tales, Throne of Glass, and so many, 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 many more. In fact, comment down below with one of your favorite retellings. At the end of one particular Writing Excuses podcast, they gave us the writing prompt, the connection to the last one, of retelling a Bible story, but set it in a sci-fi space setting. The story that immediately jumped to mind for me was the story of Joseph. When his brothers sell him into Egypt through, pretty much the end of the book of Genesis. And that story became my NaNoWriMo novel in 2020. The famine became threat of invasion or attack. Joseph wasn't sold into Egypt. He was attacked and was found by Potiphar's people and then healed. I've always wondered what happened to his sister Dinah, after that whole incident. If you know the story, you know what I'm talking about. Because, after her story, we don't ever see her again. So I made up a story and decided to, interweave it into my sci-fi Joseph retelling and kind of made it part of Joseph's backstory. and make it a subplot and Joseph's original goal to find his sister, before he's attacked. I haven't finished that story either, but you might have seen in one of my most recent videos, it's going to be my NaNoWriMo project for 2021 as well. Editing Mary here. I just realized I didn't give you any kind of activity for this particular prompt, but since we're talking about retellings, I also have a video that I just recently put out where I took a class on retellings on Skillshare. So go check that one out to see, some of the things that I learned and some things that you can take with you to be able to work on any kind of retelling. And what kind of retelling would you like to tell? What most stands out to you? Doesn't matter if it's already been done before a zillion times, Cinderella. It doesn't matter if, it's not one that you've really seen much of, although that one would definitely be cool. And see what you can make out of it. How would you retell your favorite story? And finally, number 5, life experience. Is there anything that you can't make a story out of from your life? Probably not. Or, I don't know, maybe there is. Maybe there are things that have happened that you're not comfortable writing about, or that you're just not ready to write about yet. I know I'm certainly not ready to write a story that includes losing a parent to cancer or losing your home to a flood, at least not yet. We'll see what happens in the future. But let me tell you something that I do want to write about. Roughly early spring of 2020, I believe it was, someone had sent me a message on Facebook asking me if I was the Mary Wachenfuss who attended Gunpowder Elementary School in a certain year. Turns out it was an old schoolmate of mine. Our school had put together a time capsule to celebrate its 25th anniversary, where all of the kids had written letters to themselves to be opened in another 25 years. Unfortunately, over time, the time capsule had leaked and there was a lot of water damage on some of these letters. But my schoolmate offered to mail the letters to me that I wrote, along with any other siblings who might have attended this elementary school with me. And when I finally got the letters that my sister and I had written, it was a wonderful peek into the past. At the time, I'd had no idea, couldn't remember what it was that I had written when I was 9 years old until I read my letter. Apparently 9-year-old me loved soccer and thought that I, at 34, would be in my second year of college. Technically, she wasn't actually that far off. It had actually been just a couple years since I had graduated. Now, my story ends there. But if I were to take this incident and to turn it into a story, there are so many directions it could go. And so many genres that I could use. I mean, maybe my main character lives out of state from this elementary school the way I do. Maybe not. Maybe the character chooses to go back and visit this town after they get the letter. From there, the story could turn into a romance, a mystery, a thriller, an urban fantasy, a paranormal. The possibilities are endless just from this one incident in my life. What's an incident in your life that might make a good novel? Or even a short story? You never know what you might find. So those are the 5 ways to find story ideas that I have for you today. I hope you found at least one of them helpful. Please comment down below if you use any of them and let me know how it turns out for you. Also, let me know of any other tips or tricks or ways that you have used to find story ideas. If there are enough ideas shared, I would love to be able to experiment with them and create another video sharing what I have gained from these story ideas that you have shared with me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, feel free to subscribe if you'd like to follow me on my writing, reading, and crafting journey. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.